We've all said it. If the Big Muff is so good, then how come there's not a sequel? Well, guess what's in this box? The Big Muff 2, the sequel to the Big Muff 1. So apparently, Josh Scott and the rest of the JHS team was digging around in filing cabinets, in secret nooks and crannies of the Electro-Harmonix offices, and they found a forgotten schematic for a forgotten variation of a Big Muff that has 2 op amps in it. So they've been working for years to bring this thing to market, and oh my gosh, it is in a big box, and it is a collaboration with Electro-Harmonix. This is, I got the email, but I haven't seen like any pictures or anything like that. I wasn't anticipating a big box. The Big Muff 2 dual op amp. I love the vintage treatment on the pi symbol there. So what do we have here? The dual op amp Big Muff 2. There's a lot of words here. Which one should I read? We've got a paragraph of words here telling the story of Mike Matthews tracking down Bob Meyer, an engineer at Bell Labs, and they ended up working together, and he ended up making the LPB1 and eventually the Triangle Big Muff. And then it says, in 2021, while interviewing Meyer in that original workshop, now largely in ruins, Daniel Danger and Josh Scott recovered a box of his original notebooks and documents. Among the files were the hand-drawn schematics for an unreleased Big Muff circuit using 2 dual op amps, likely created around 1977 but never produced by Electro-Harmonix. Inside this box is the collaborative effort between Electro-Harmonix, JHS Pedals, and Danger to finally unleash this lost piece of Muff history upon the world, and celebrating the 57-year creative partnership and friendship of Meyer and Matthews. And look, there is part of the schematic on the back right there. All right, let's do it. Time to actually see what this thing looks like. Is it going to be a big pedal or a little pedal in a big box? Oh, it's a big pedal. Oh, and I wasn't expecting this. It is red. Oh, that's fun. I was expecting it to be silver. I wasn't sure if it was going to be big or little or what. Oh my gosh, that's cool. This is going to be something that I keep forever, isn't it? I'm going to be keeping around this gigantic red Muff pedal. A Big Muff 2, the sequel, for the rest of my life, just because it's going to feel special to me. I love the packaging on this, by the way. This cool, like, every Big Muff logo interior. That's neat. That's a neat touch. Apparently there's some sort of book going along with this collaborative launch as well. I'm sure the JHS channel will have all the information you need to know about that. I'm not going to read everything that's on here, but I will reference it as I go. Volume, sustain, tone, and power. All right, let's do it. Let's plug it in. I'm starting off with this super duper sparkly Sire L7 running into the ship's pedal board, the motherboard over here, just in case I want some delay or reverb or modulation or something like that. I have a feeling I'll want all of that at some point during this demo. And then of course I'm running out of the motherboard into my switcher and looper on the floor, which is switching and looping into the 2 Princeton's rig. All right, we did everything we needed to do. Now we get to try the pedal. You have to eat your vegetables if you want a treat. Clean from the Sire. That is the middle position. Here is the bridge. And here is the neck position. Yep, that's wide open. It is a dark and creamy sounding neck pickup there, which will be a lot of fun, with a Big Muff style fuzz. If it is a Big Muff style fuzz, what if this is something completely different? It's the sequel. Sometimes the sequel is very different from the first one. Let's find out though. Here we go. I know from reading the email and the literature that I can expect more lows, more mids, more output, which I don't need here in the space pod. But I don't know what the actual fuzz part of it will sound like, what the distortion sounds like. We're about to find out. First chord, what are we gonna do? Let's do a great big E power chord on the 7th fret, but we'll leave the low E ringing to get extra heavy. It is not a fuzz or distortion, however you classify a Big Muff, that goes clean. When you turn down the sustain, there's still plenty of distortion there. There's a little hump right there. Sometimes it's worth finding those little sweet spots, and you set the dial right before them so you can kind of push into them with your playing dynamic. Do you hear what's going on there? Listen as I strum lightly. I'll do it like a power chord. And then as I dig in, listen to how the sound changes. The EQ changes. I was listening for the clipping to change, and maybe it is, but much more dramatically, sitting on that hump that I found right there, that little sweet spot on the sustain dial, I am using my dynamics to go from a dark, murky sound to a bright, crispy sound, with just how hard I'm digging into the strings. that with the tone higher. That's not something that I was expecting to happen. And it's even more dramatic with the tone higher. It seems like it starts off at the same place, like this kind of dark, murky, muffy sort of sound. And then I'm able to climb up with my playing dynamics to a brighter, clearer sort of sound. But the gain dynamics feel very similar. Maybe it sounds different in post. You guys let me know what you think. What an interesting dynamic to play with. I want to hear it on the neck pickup now. I'm worried I'm not getting the tonal dynamic because I'm on the neck pickup. So even if it opens all the way up, I'm still getting a really dark, creamy, searing sort of sound. But I'm not getting that high-end sound, that high frequency sound that I was getting from the bridge. See what I mean? So that's the bridge, and I can start off dark. There's still a shift there from the neck pickup. You're still working the sweet spot on the sustain knob. I've been dwelling on this for a while. Let's move on to just cranking the sustain all the way up. See what happens. Is that dynamic still there when it's all the way up? It's still there, but I don't feel like it's the same physical response as that little hump that I found. Yeah, you get so much more range on that sweet spot there. Now all the way up. Now versus all the way up. I feel like even playing soft, it's starting off with more high frequency content there. Yeah, I can't play light enough to get that dark, murky sound that I was getting from right there. Yeah, there's less gain, but that tonal kind of equilibrium that you get dialing it back a little bit, there's some magic there. plenty heavy, but my impression of it is that this is not a Big Muff. It's a Big Muff too, but it is not a Big Muff that is trying to give you some new exotic flavor of heavier gain. It does feel and sound different though. I'd almost say that the gain feels lighter to me than a standard Big Muff in some way. Like it almost feels Tube Screamer-ish in a way, where there's a lot of tight distortion underneath the surface, and then a bigger, clearer, wider open sort of sound on the top. Are you hearing what I'm hearing? Like, listen to the way it fades when I'm like half palm muting it. You hear that fizziness? You hear that fizziness underneath the initial big crunch? That's what I'm talking about. Do you hear that? This is very much like a for me in the moment, the way I'm experiencing it, observation. Because you can't feel the way it feels to play through. You can't feel what I'm doing with my hands. But I'm doing a bit of like a light palm mute. Just enough to like mute that initial chord crunch so I can hear that tight, thick fuzz that's underneath that initial crunch. But that's underneath it the whole time. I can definitely tell you that there's more mids in the mix than I'm used to from a Big Muff style fuzz. I want to start throwing it at some reverb. I've got the Clara reverb here for a big old spacious singing sort of sound. Let's get ambiance. Oh, that feels good. Oh, it wants to lay in reverb. Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Oh, that was a fun experience. I want to throw my bass 6 at it. This is my Alameda Guitars Deep 6. It is a bass 6 with all the bells and whistles. No switch, no knob has been left out. It even has 2 bridges. That's right, this is a Strat bridge back here and a Mosrite bridge right there. It is ridiculous and it is a ton of fun and it's super duper versatile. I'll have a link down in the description. That's what it sounds like on that setting. Here's what it sounds like on this setting. Can't show off all the settings because it would take too long. Let's see what it sounds like with the Big Muff 2. Here we go. What's gonna happen? Of course it sounds like that. Why wouldn't it sound like that? Want to try it on the bridge only setting? Murky. I want to try to lay down a loop. I want to try to lay down a loop with the Deep 6 here, and then I'll play over it with a different guitar. I don't know which one yet, but I'll pick something. I was having fun there, wasn't I? When I get the jag stang out, you know I'm having a good time. Had some potential. I always think I should come back to these little loops and riffs and write an actual song around them. I like that fun little... Let's hear it without the delay and reverb. Between those two loops, I should probably be writing a fresh Dinosaur Ghost song, right? Now's our chance to try it with a single coil from the neck pickup here. Let's put it in that sweet spot. Play a little bit. And then we'll call it a video. What do you think? Splash of reverb. Now that there's a sequel, now that there's Big Muff 2, we do have to call other Big Muffs Big Muff 1s, right? Even though there's dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds of variations of Big Muffs out there. This is the second version, and all other versions are the first version. Are we going to see Big Muff 2 variations of like the Metal Muff and all the other variations of Muff out there? I think we should. I think there's enough going on here that sounded different to me. I'm still kind of hung up on that picking dynamic thing where it just gets dark with light picking, and then you dig in and it gets bright. Have I missed that on regular Big Muffs, on Big Muff 1s? Has that been there the whole time? Like I've always tried to find that sweet spot to milk this kind of like harmonic difference, or like this hump over low gain to high gain. But I don't know if I've ever experienced it with that tonal shift. Also, like muffs take low-end guitars great, basses, baritones, 7th strings, stuff like that. They always have. This continues that tradition. Like this sounded great with the bass 6. Like there's something about it where like that initial top section of the audio isn't as high gain, isn't as destroyed, isn't as fuzzed out as this thick underlayer of distortion that's going on, distortion or fuzz. It like I said, it's like a tube screamer in that way, where there's this fizziness, or in this case, fuzziness, filling out these lower frequencies. And a lot of this, yeah, that's Muff stuff. Am I tripping? Is this different? It feels different to me. Sometimes you can feel the difference in a pedal. It feels lower gain. It feels like there's more clarity to me. Like I'm used to muffs being fairly blunt objects. This feels like it might be a muff for those of us with lighter touch, which usually is not me. I'll say that. But if you found that dynamic range trick that I was exploiting interesting, where your light picking is dark and muffled, and your digging in picking, your hard picking, gets clarity and it gets bright and it gets ice picky if you want it to. This does it. Maybe other fuzzes do it as well. Maybe other muffs do it as well. But I discovered it in this one, and I'm feeling pretty stoked about it. So let me know what you think. What do you think about this pedal? The Big Muff 2, a collaboration in between Electro Harmonics and JHS and Bob Myers and everyone else involved. These big pedals, man, there's something really imposing about them. Like you can't not look at them when you're in a room with a big pedal. I know it doesn't need to be big. You know the circuit in this thing is teensy tiny. But there's something romantic about this big red folded metal case. All right. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section down below. Huge thanks to JHS for sending this my way, and Electro Harmonics for doing something fun and cool again with JHS. They did the Lizard Queen together, and now they're collaborating again. I think that's a fun pairing, EHX and JHS. So yeah, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, dislike, leave me rude, nasty comments. Support us on Patreon. Buy a shirt if you're naked, and stay grounded.